On this episode, we speak about romantic relationships. We all, some secretly and others very openly, want to experience a happily ever after. Wanting a beautiful relationship is one thing, but what we inevitably get is derived from our intentions. The truth is, relationships take work on so many levels. Tune in as we discover just what that work entails and more, right here on LifeClub.
I'm Tashima Jones. Welcome to LifeClub. I genuinely believe personal development unlocks the door to the abundant and wonderful life we all already have. I also believe we must be intentional about seeking out that life in order to find and fulfill it. I am so grateful your journey of discovery has led you all the way here. Let's keep moving forward together. Once again, welcome to Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. Hello. Super excited to be here with you. This is a Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you were rocking out right here. Super excited about the topic we will be discussing today. Yes, we are speaking about relationships, and not just any type of relationships. We are speaking about romantic relationships. I have held back on this subject for quite some time. Although we touched on it here and there, I really haven't gone in, primarily because it took a moment for me to really separate myself from previous relationships in order to deliver a sound lesson on it. And today is officially the day. Let's dig in. As always, we have to remember that when we know the definition of a thing, we are better equipped to handle and use it properly. The same is true about this wonderful word, relationships. So we're going to take this word apart. First up is relation, and this means the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected. It is a thing's effect on or relevance to another, and ship is a vessel larger than a boat for transporting people or goods by sea. So now, when we put those two things together, relationship, especially when it comes in like human terms, we have to understand that the relationships that we build with another person should consist of a connection and a way to get from one space to another. I remember the moment when I heard this idea or this concept of a relationship being this vessel of transference or travel, and it's this concept of when we get into a relationship with someone, we have to be mindful of how we are connected to that person. And then we have to be mindful of the mission, of the vision, and where in the world are we going together. So when you think about the relation that you have with someone, aka that connection, you have to be mindful of what's connecting you two together. Oftentimes we get into relationships connected through hurt, through pain, through low self-esteem, through hard times, through the flesh, through the aesthetic, through sex, through money. There's so many things that we are attracted to, aka that attraction leads to a connection. It's the magnet that pulls two people together. So when we are in this process of building and growing, or even thinking or planning to become one with someone or to get into a relationship with someone, we have to first deal with this idea of relation. What is your relevance in my life? What is your value in my life? What are you adding to my life? And the same is true the other way. What can I add to your life? What am I bringing to your life? What is joining us together? And a lot of times, this is why so many people, there's this thing where it's like, you have to give yourself time in between relationships to really rebuild and regroup, because what can happen is you'd find yourself either attracting the same person that you just got out of a situation with, or bringing in that baggage, aka that luggage, those hurt feelings, those insecurities, and all of the above. So it's vital, so very vital for us to understand what is the relation, what is the connection, what is the relevance, what am I choosing to gain out of this relationship, what am I choosing to give in this relationship, and what is this person's intentions towards me, what is this person adding into my life, what is this person bringing into my life, how are we going to serve each other and serve the people that we will influence. So again, relation, it is the relevance between one thing and another. It is what connects two people together. And then this idea of a ship. Getting on a ship, you don't get on ships to stay at the port. You don't get on a ship to just stand still in water. A ship takes you from one destination to another. And stagnation is like the killer of so many relationships, because oftentimes it's an issue of the two people who are in a relationship not growing, both as individuals and as a couple. And if you don't grow as an individual, you're definitely not going to grow in a partnership. So being mindful of that. Where is this relation that I'm creating with this person, this connection that I am committing to? Where is this taking me in my life? Is this taking me away from my path of alignment? Is this taking me away from the journey that I was on as an individual? Or is it catapulting me forward? Is it helping me to progress into the direction that I believe I'm supposed to be in? These are two very significant points that we all have to consider as, I would say, single people. We have to understand the power of a relationship, the power of two people coming together, the good that can come out of it, but we also have to be honest about the negative things that can be a result of getting into a relationship without dealing with some of the issues, and first starting with what a relationship is. If you don't take anything away from this installment of Life Club, I truly hope that you take that away from it, that again, a relationship is a connection with another person that is going to get you from point A to point B, C, and D. And you definitely don't want to form a connection or a relationship that's going to take you backwards. So again, relationship, I just want to drill that definition and that term and that idea home with you, that when you are getting involved with another human being in a relationship, in a committed situation, you have to first be mindful of the idea of what's connecting you to this person and where is this taking you. And I want to sit on the connections that we create with other people for a little while, because I think the beginning tends to tell the end. Oftentimes things change. Thank God for change and growth. But there are some telltale signs in the beginning of a relationship that when you look back, it's like, I kind of knew that this was going to lead me here. And again, this could be on a high note when we take into consideration what a relationship is and the overall purpose of a relationship itself. Now, a lot of things that connect us to people, I'm going to start with the low vibrational things, because I truly believe that we hear so many stories about relationships and marriages in general failing. And I truly believe it's what brought those two people together to begin with. So if we can prevent that, I truly believe we'd hear more stories of happily ever after. So some of the things that connect us in relationships on the low frequency, the low vibe side, are a lack. They are insecurities. and it's based on misdiagnosed or confusion when it comes to your identity. So when I say misdiagnosed, a lot of people don't really know who they are. And again, a relationship is made up of the two people involved. So if you're a hot mess by yourself, it's only but so much good that's going to come out of the relationship that you establish with another human being, especially if that person is a hot mess themselves. So when we speak about the things that connect us, when we speak about the links that connect us to other people, we have to be mindful of the energy that we're carrying around. We have to be mindful of the spirit in which we are living in as individual, single people. If you are dealing with a low self-esteem, or if you don't really have any guidance in your life's path, if you don't really fully know yourself, and if you're not fully complete and happy and peaceful with yourself, those are the things that will tend to draw similar people, or they'll draw people that can actually heal you in that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to spend a lifetime with that person. So I truly believe the life force is always sending messengers and sending the healing that we need and sending the answers that we need. And it's really up to us to really hone in on getting clarity and hearing that voice. Again, yes, we are speaking about relationships. This matters. It's so tremendous. It really, really does matter. The state that you are in as an individual, the state that you are in your singlehood is so important and so relevant to how your relationships will develop. So if we are connecting with people through a space of lack, and lack is really this idea of not enough in so many areas of your life. Too often we see this idea of lack when it comes to material possessions, money, and other resources. But in all actuality, lack is just simply not having enough. So it translates into an insecurity, if you will. Again, there's food insecurity, there's financial insecurity. And of course, there's also that emotional and identity idea of being insecure. So those are that area of your life, the area of lack, whatever that may look like. You should definitely start to tend to those things and start to make peace with those things and start to become full in those areas so that you won't connect with another human being who is either in that same space or even worse off than where you are. And again, the worst thing that could ever happen is for the life force to send you your lifetime partner, aka boo or bae, and you not be ready for that person. So I guess what I am saying is that the moral of the story is you have to take into consideration the state of your singlehood. You have to take into consideration the state of which you are in as an individual. Start to deal with those things. And I wouldn't recommend that you deal with them with the intention of getting into a relationship. Do it for yourself. Let's just take a deep breath on that. Do it for yourself, because besides the relationship that we established with the life force, the most important relationship that you can ever establish is the relationship that you have with yourself. Too often we get into relationships for other people to complete us, and that is virtually impossible. Nobody can complete a whole individual. Let's just take a break on that. Nobody can complete a whole individual. And if you do not see yourself as a whole person, then there is the area that you have to tend to, that you have to really dig into and start to fill in those gaps and fill in those holes in your singlehood and in your individuality. And I truly believe that we all need to be grateful for that space of singlehood. We all have to be grateful for those moments of being an individual, because one of the precious things that you will find is that you are able to develop into the person that you are called to be. And it won't be based on you trying to please a partner or to please someone else's version of who you should be or who they think you are. Because when we're in relationships, we want to please our partners and we want to, there's other things that we have to do. There is compromise in a relationship and there is this idea of give and take. So it's so much harder for you to do that when you are in a relationship. It's harder for you to truly develop into the individual that you're supposed to be when you are paired, partnered, aka booed up with somebody else. Again, singlehood is like the prerequisite for getting into a relationship. And a lot of us want to be skipped, but we are not at that level. Sorry, you can't. You got to stay in this classroom until you get it right. And the reality of the matter is this: if you continue to try to leave that classroom too soon, you will continue to get left back. Because the relationships that you try to pursue and the relationships that you try to build will crumble. And I truly believe that you'll gain some insight out of those situations. And I'm sure that you will have some form of growth. But at the same time, you're only slowing yourself down trying to go faster. I remember this elder who said, haste makes waste. And that is so very true. The more we try to speed up that engine, the further behind we fall. So take advantage of this moment of singlehood. Take advantage of this space. Just being that individual, aka fall in love with yourself. Yes. Oh, yes. And I'm not speaking about that in an egotistical way. The reality of the matter is that we must love others as we love ourselves. And if we do not love ourselves, we cannot love another person. Not this true idea and the true essence of what love truly is. So take advantage of your singlehood and do not let anybody marriage shame you. Don't let anybody make you feel some type of way because you are in a certain space in your life and you are not married or not in a relationship. You have to be the best version of yourself first. Yes. So that really covers this idea of how we are connecting with somebody. What state of life are you in as a single person? And how are you, how is that relevant to the person that you're connecting with? Be mindful of connecting with somebody in a low space in your life, because this is the other thing. Oftentimes we may have, a bad breakup, or we might not be in this space that we know is our true and best selves. And then we get connected in a situation. And then as we're growing and as we're rising to the top, that person you connected with when you was on level 1 is still at level 1, and you going to 5, 7, 10 and beyond. And that person is still lagging behind. You have to be mindful of that, and you have to recognize that in order for you to have, again, a healthy relationship, you first must be healthy. So again, be mindful of how you are connecting with other people. Now, the other aspect of this word called relationship is the ship itself. Now, once you got your mind right, once you got your body right, your money right, your spirit right, and all of the above, now you're better equipped to go somewhere with somebody. Because two things are very whack in relationships. The first thing is somebody holding you back, and the second is you holding somebody else back. I think it's very selfish of us to desire for this person, our partner, to have 10s across the boards, and then you're lagging behind and you're not taking care of your business. I truly believe that is selfish. And it just goes back to this idea of somebody else filling in the gaps for you and completing you. So when we are thinking about this idea of getting into a relationship, when we're thinking about coupling with someone else, we have to have an idea of where we're going in life. We have to have an idea of where we're going in life. What is your individual vision, mission, and purpose? And then what is the vision, the mission, and the purpose corporately? What is where are you going? Because beauty fades. We just gonna be real about that. But what is it that you are going to create with your partner? What is it that you're going to build with this person? Where are you going? How are you going to raise your family? What type of legacy are you hoping to leave behind? What is the thing that you want to impact and influence in other people's lives? You have to be mindful of the power of two people getting together and actually creating something. And it's so much bigger than what it is that you guys do with yourself. And this can be indirectly or directly. You have hashtag power couples who are really influential in their industries of expertise. And then you just have families and couples that are just wonderful and living an amazingly their best life. And that too influences other people around you. So you really have to be mindful of where you're going and what type of ship are you in, what type of vessel are you developing with this other person, and where are you going? Where are you leading each other, and where are you leading your family and the people that see you shine or not? Depending on, again, the connection that you build with that person and that link that you're establishing with another individual. So again, this idea of relationship, it's the relevance or the connection that is bringing ourselves and someone else together, in addition to where you two are going once you are connected. I think this is a good spot to just take a quick break. Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. I'm super excited to be speaking about relationships, aka those romantic relationships. I've been working on pacing myself because I just get really excited when I'm here with you guys. Okay, so once again, we are speaking about romantic relationships. It is so vital, so important for us to be mindful and to be intentional about the connections that we're making with other people and where those connections are taking us. Just to recap our first half, we spoke about this concept of relationship itself, and it's basically the connection that we are building with another person and where we are going with that individual. We also spoke about the things that we should accomplish in our singlehood. It is so important for us to be whole individuals before we ever try to join together with someone else. We have to be mindful of why and what's connecting us to another person. Remember, if you are building a foundation that's rooted and grounded in fear, insecurity, a lack, and just chaos, that's going to be what you will produce. You're just going to multiply that by adding somebody else into the equation. So be mindful of the state that you are in when you are starting a new thing. The areas that we should definitely focus on are our spiritual insides, our inner being, the true us, the real us. We need to have hashtag spiritual goals out here in these spiritual streets because it is so important and so vital for us to truly be in a space of rest and fruitfulness, not only for the relationships that we hope to establish, but for the relationship that we have with ourselves and with the life force. We definitely have to be mindful of our minds, our mental perspective of ourselves and of life itself. And then there's like this really big area called our bodies. We just have to be so mindful of our physical body. You have to be happy with yourself. You have to be healthy within yourself, and you have to be secure with yourself and with your body. And yes, our physical appearances change and they shift based on life events and things of that nature. But overall, when you're starting something new, you have to be mindful of how you feel physically and the appearance of which you have. Now, as an individual, that is definitely an area that you can put work into so that when you get into the situation, you feel free to go wherever, whenever, anywhere and be comfortable in your own skin. And that does not look like a size 0. Neither it's not about the shape or the size that you are, but it's the level of comfort that you have with yourself and more importantly, you being just your healthy self when it comes to your physical body. The other area of importance is definitely your finances. Again, there's so many people who are roommates and in unhappy relationships because New York City rent are so expensive, or if you have a mortgage or whatever the case may be. So it's like you have to be #real about your money, both men and women. You have to be mindful, again, of what is the connection. Am I in this relationship because I just don't have anywhere else to go and I'm just stuck here? Or are you in this relationship where that is the exchange that you're getting from your mate? There's so many people who are in situations just because of the money, and it's not necessarily that times are hard for them. They just want more of what they have. And again, there's so many levels of each and every single one of these areas that we have to truly be authentic and transparent with ourselves about. We have to be mindful of what, again, is connecting us to this other person. And a biggie, well, before I go into that, I wanted to go into our emotions. Do not be connected to someone solely based on your emotional state and where you are, whether you're happy or not. Because emotions change, emotions shift. And if you are making an emotional decision about something that can last a lifetime or can manufacture a lifetime events, you have to be so mindful of dating with your emotions. And that's something that's we're going to probably have to have a part 2, because we cannot get so caught up in our feelings that we make certain decisions today that we may very well regret tomorrow. So be mindful of your emotions. And again, that is for men and women. And last but not least, we have to be mindful of our philosophy towards life, especially when it comes to the relationships that we are cultivating currently or hope to cultivate in the future. What is your philosophy towards life? Because if your philosophy towards life is that there are no good people in this world, you're never going to get into a relationship, because you're going to basically, I don't want to say self-sabotage, but you'll get into a situation based on a negative philosophy that will ruin your relationship before it even starts. So be mindful of your philosophy towards life. Be aware of how you see relationships. Deal with the relationships that you've seen growing up. Because if every person in your household or your family line were single parents, or if you've seen unhealthy marriages, and if you've seen people who are just don't really honor that space of partnership and marriage, you have to be aware of that, and you have to be honest with how that influences your perspective and how that influences how you engage in relationships themselves. So be mindful of your philosophy towards life, and not only life, but specifically relationships. If you have not grown up in a healthy household, and healthy is really a broad term that I'm using, but if you really didn't see positive images of relationships growing up, that in some way or another is definitely influencing how you not only see relationships, but how you engage in them and how you build the relationships in your personal life. So really start to develop your perspective of relationships and how you've seen them, because another area which I, like many of you, may have faced is that while as an individual you may feel comfortable with yourself and you may be, just practicing all this self-care and you have a great self-esteem, but then when you get into a situation with somebody, that may flip to where, well, I know I feel good about myself, but how does this person feel about me? And then we get caught up in trying to people please, or we get caught up in feeling something totally opposite of what the person that we are in a situation with is really feeling. So just be mindful of your perspective towards relationships and your perspective towards these romantic relationships. What is dating to you? What are the things that you're seeking in a relationship? What are the things that you're willing to extend to that other person in a relationship? What are your do's? What are your don'ts? What is it that you truly expect when it comes to coupling with another person? Deal with that aspect of relationships. Again, your philosophy towards relationships for men, for women, it is all the same. What are you expecting? What are you expecting to give? What are you expecting to receive? What is it that you're expecting to build? What is your perspective? Oh my goodness, that's the second thing that I need for you to take away from this. In addition to defining relationship itself, the connections that we are building with another person and where that partnership is taking us. And secondly, figure out your relationship philosophy. You have to figure out how do you see relationships? Because this is the thing. We can truly want love. We can truly want to build a family. We can truly want something amazing. But if our perspective of that thing happening is tainted with just negative expectations, that is what we're going to receive. Even if it's not really happening, there are tons of relationships that go wrong because of this miscommunication in what relationships truly are and what it is that we're expecting from this relationship. Oh my goodness, yes, I'm feeling that so strongly. Just be mindful of your relationship philosophy. Deal with it. One of the things that I've done when it comes to my relationship philosophy is actually like write it down. I'm just going to be like real transparent. I literally wrote a letter to an individual about my relationship philosophy because it wasn't until that moment in my life that I started to grasp this concept and I started to recognize like, oh my goodness, I am dating with this tainted philosophy towards relationships. I am going into relationships with low expectations, not only of myself, but of the person. And then I have this whole paradigm that I've just like shaped relationships in. So it's almost as if you're living out this vision of the relationship versus the reality of the relationship. And what I did was I literally poured out my heart in this letter of why I did and thought the things that I did and thought, and not necessarily saying that it was this person's fault, but just for me being able to get that out of me for myself and to share it with another person was so freeing. It was so liberating. And it really, the only way I can describe it is like just this freedom from living in this cycle of low expectations when it came to relationships. And those expectations come from somewhere. And you have to do the life work to actually dig up and to find what it's connected to. And then, like David, slay that giant and move forward in your freedom. So yes, that is so vital, so important. Make sure you have a healthy philosophy towards relationships. And I wanted to spend the last few minutes that we have together on this installment of a Life Club speaking about alignment and choosing a person. So I found myself in a lot of conversations with my peers about, well, how do you know that this person is the one, or how do you choose a mate, or how do you, really find that person? And the best, I don't want to say advice because I am no expert, but the best answer I have to that is to not look. Stop looking. If you are anything like me, you believe that the person that you're supposed to be with, if you're supposed to be with someone at all, will I don't want to say find their way to you, but you guys will find your ways to each other. And it's so important, going back to our singlehood, to be mindful of the path that you are on, to be aligned with your life's path and with your life's journey. Because just like all of these amazingly wonderful people and events that take place as you're on that journey of purpose, so too will your mate be. And I think we put too much energy and too much time in looking for a boo or a bae, and we are a hot mess ourselves. And then we get that person and expect them to be, again, 10s across the boards, and you like on level 3. Like, we can't do that. It's just not right. So the main thing, or the main answer to that question of how do you know this person? Well, how do you choose a mate? I truly believe it is based on alignment. And once you get yourself in order, you will know that this person is the person that you're supposed to be with. And I really don't have a concrete answer to that because it looks different for everybody. But I genuinely believe that when we are on this journey called life, and when we are developing personally, and we're getting our mind right, we're getting our spirit right, we're getting our money right, we're getting our lives together in our singlehood, we're tying up those loose ends, we are making peace with who we are and where we've been and where we're going. We are, in a sense, equipping ourselves to find that person. And we're also equipping ourselves to have a healthy relationship with that person. Too often we put too much in the wedding, whether that's money, time, and even prayer, that we don't effectively spend enough time and energy into making something last. Oftentimes we are in love with being in love and not the real thing. And I am recovering from that because a lot of times we have this idea of what love is, and we have this idea of what a beautiful relationship is, that we get so caught up in the idea of it that we start to transpose that idea onto the person that is in close proximity to us. And it doesn't work like that. I'm holding back tears. I like speaking about this. But seriously, don't be so caught up in being in love that you get caught up in a hot mess relationship gone wrong. Be mindful of your intentions and be mindful of what you are putting out into the atmosphere. And be mindful and catch yourself when you meet somebody new and you automatically think that that's your boo forever. Oh my goodness, I have stories about this. And I'm so glad that I'm delivered. Because it has truly, truly been a journey for me when it comes to romantic relationships. And the main thing, the main nugget, the main gem and jewel that I got out of this is, do not choose. Let the life force choose for you. I always say Jay-Z and Beyonce would have never met if they were looking for each other. I mean, not to say that they're like the world's greatest couple, but it's just something that we can all relate to, a couple that we know. And it's usually, I truly believe that the marriages and the relationships that last a lifetime are those that are effortless and intentional when it comes to how that person is building up their inner being and building up their sphere of influence and building up their mental, their finances, etc. So just be mindful of being on the chase. Because if you're chasing something, that means it's running away from you. I'm just saying, we have to stop looking. And it's not to say that we block out this idea of a union and we block out this idea of building a family and having a really healthy relationship. It's letting it happen naturally and authentically, because that is the thing that's going to last. Because the worst thing to do is to put on a facade, to impersonate somebody else in the beginning, and then you wake up with a stranger 10 years later wondering how in the world did this happen. So we have to stop playing ourselves and truly be ourselves. The last thing that I want to leave with you guys is this idea of having looking at a relationship like we look at business. You know, you have contracts, you have agreements, you have terms and conditions, you have a mission, a vision, you have intentions, you have goals, you have milestones that you want to reach. It's like we put so much energy into our businesses and we do not do it when it comes to our relationships. And again, whether you're dating or you engaged or you're about to be married, whatever the case may be, you have to have just this clarity and this divine communication as to what it is that you are literally signing up for when you make a commitment to another person. So when we are cultivating relationships and when we are, whether we're preparing for it or we're in the middle of it or we're 50 years deep, you can always revive that commitment that you've made with this other individual. So start looking at relationships like you look at your business. And it's not to speak about financial or resources, although that plays a huge part in building a relationship. It's really looking at what is it that you, that corporation, aka your family, what do you guys stand for? What is the vision that you have for your lives? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? And what is it that you want to give to each other? Because that is the reality of the thing. When you are both trying to serve each other after serving the life force, it is well. It is truly, truly well. So keep that in mind. I think we just gonna put a C live right there. I think that's a good spot. Because if I open up something else, then I don't know what's going to happen. Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. This wraps our installments on romantic relationships. I am so grateful, so honored to be able to share these truths with you. If you don't leave with anything else, remember, a relationship is a connection that you have with another person and where you two are going together. And the second most important thing that I feel like I have said on this installment is to be mindful of your relationship philosophy. Yes, you can find me on tashimajones.com. All of my social media and contact information can be found there. Until next time, remember your greatness. Talk soon.
I am Tashima Jones, and you've been listening to Life Club. Thank you for tuning in.